Now, the topic at the moment, what role do you think AI will play in transforming how we gather these insights?
AI, again, there is a lot of energy, there's a lot of hype, there is a lot of promise. Without kind of keeping the balance with what the business needs, then there is a huge risk.
I wanted to change tact and ask about something else now, about diversity and inclusion.
We're having conversations on what is the right way of doing it, and sometimes we need to find a better balance to make things move in a more fluent and smooth way. Yeah, absolutely. I think that story is a little twisted. It wasn't a perfect match for me when I started.
What's your top tip to others? Hello and welcome to another edition of the Insight250 Spotlight series. I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend Pavi Gupta, the VP of Insights and Analytics at Chobani in the US. And today we're talking about how AI can transform insights. But first, Pavi, welcome. All our viewers are going to really want to know, how did you get into insights?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that story is a little twisted. It wasn't a perfect match for me when I started. It was there was a lure of advertising that I had, and I even interned with at that time it used to be called Ogilvy and Mehta. And when I went out of campus and started the interviewing process, one after the other, I kept getting rejections in advertising agencies. And a classmate of mine said, "Oh, you should try your hand at market research." It wasn't the in thing. Times have changed. This is really where everyone wants to be. And I thought maybe this guy doesn't like me, so he's trying to get rid of me. I did interview with 3 research agencies at that time, and all 3 of them made me offers. So clearly, they knew me better than I knew myself at that point of time, because within a month I felt I found my calling. I felt it helped kind of amplify the curiosity that I have and the connection between what's going on in the real world versus where the business wants to go. So since then, it's many, many moons later, I'm still here in this insights industry.
Oh, well, that's a fantastic story. And it is, so many people drop into insights by accident, but it really is a fascinating area. It's the foundation of all marketing. Without that evidence, that data, you think so little can happen. But in your space, in the food space, how do you see the role of insights evolving in the years ahead?
Yeah, I think, again, if you see what's going on in the external world, with especially the CPG market or fast moving consumer goods, some of the existing brands and established companies are getting disrupted because of various macro as well as micro trends happening at the same time. I think the pandemic was a moment that gave people a moment to pause and reflect on their lives and their future and health and wellness, and consider it in a different way. It was also a moment when, organizations and companies had to make some rapid changes because of initially supply chain disruptions, and then later a lot of inflation coming through, which led to a lot of pricing pressure, which meant organizations needed to take some pricing, which again, in the larger macroeconomic context, did not work very well with a lot of consumers. So they started being more open to, maybe store brands, or maybe look at more local brands that they were not previously considering. And I don't think food is unique there. I think this is a trend that is affecting a lot of the CPG industry players. So as a result, again, I think you would argue there's always insights and analytics always has a space or time for business to take the right decisions. But if anything, I feel this is a even more acute time that you need to keep an eye on what's going on, how your consumers are feeling, what are your shoppers doing, where are your customers gravitating towards, and having a keen pulse on all those market signals is absolutely critical.
Oh, I agree with you. It's absolutely critical. It really is. But now the topic at the moment, what role do you think AI will play in transforming how we gather these insights?
Yes, I feel AI, again, there is a lot of energy, there's a lot of hype, there is a lot of promise that is coming through. And all of us who are consumers of the content and looking at, the transformation of what this can bring, definitely realize the potential of where it can go. The question is, how do we sort out between like the hype and the reality of, the practicality of how this is going to evolve, right? Because if we embrace it too quickly without kind of ensuring that it's actually delivering on that promise just because of the tech or the platform or the benefits without kind of keeping the balance with what the business needs, then there is a huge risk. I feel I have a very simple 2x2 framework. There is on one axis, you can think about it as a known to the unknown. And the other axis is kind of the intuitive to the counterintuitive. And if you think about the four quadrants there, a lot of our time, energy, resources, and people are focused on the bottom left quadrant, which is the known and the intuitive piece, which is what I will call as validatory insights.
Yeah.
This is where I feel AI can immediately play a massive role because it can help us interrogate what we already know, quantify what we already know, understand the rate of change of what we already know, and it's intuitive. And that can help free up a lot of our time, resources, our budgets. And then, we can try to find the balance, get to double down on that human understanding aspect of it, which will take us to those other quadrants of the unknown or the counterintuitive, whereas where the business can realize a lot of value. So the initial journey, AI can augment us by freeing us from this validatory work. And this is where we can then double down on the human understanding to get to more incremental as well as transformational insights.
Oh, absolutely. That's so right. I love that four-box model. We love a four-box model in research and consulting as well. So, and look, we've talked lots more about this in AI, and you can see the whole interview on insight250.com or on SMR's Research World. So do read the whole article. But I wanted to change tact and ask about something else now, about diversity and inclusion, because it does seem to be out of fashion in some quarters. But do you believe it is still important for our sector? And if so, what more could we be doing?
Yeah, I feel, again, it's, the marketing 101 and is segmentation, targeting, positioning. So at the end of the day, for any brand, any business, any platform to be successful, you want to understand as deeply and intricately as is possible or allowable each of your consumer segments and target population that's out there, so that you can position your product and your solution and resonate the idea better, right? So if you think about D&I from just a business lens itself, it makes so much sense because it's about understanding every consumer and realizing and giving them that importance and due respect of like, you are different and your thoughts are different, and therefore how can I bring a product that can be even better? I have an analog on this on the data part, right? If you think about all of the data models, and the best data models are the ones which have a lot of variation in the training data set, because then the predictive power of your model is going to be that much better. If the entire data set is super homogeneous, yes, the predictive power could be amazing as long as the changes are also homogeneous. But the moment the change is different, I mean, this was the pandemic moment, right? I call it the BC world, the before COVID world. Everybody was working off momentum models, and it was good enough. But when the pandemic happened, projecting what's going to happen was very difficult because all the predictive power, I call it, got diluted because of this black swan event that happened. So again, we need to kind of think about DE&I in the same ways Of course, it's a topic that evokes a lot of passion, and I feel, again, irrespective of which side of the spectrum you sit in, whether on any of the sides, I feel it's just people question the ways you can bring this to life. I don't think anybody questions the fact that humanity has so many vibrant colors that are out there. I think there is merit in having conversations on what is the right way of doing it, and sometimes we need to find a better balance to make things move in a more fluent and smooth way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're spot on there. And then one last question from me, what's your top tip to be a leader and innovator in our profession? Obviously, you're a multi-time winner of the Insight 250, so you must know something about leading and innovating, but what's your top tip to others?
So my top tip, and I talk about this a lot, I have deep passion for it, is continue to understand that, your curiosity is actually reducing, whether it's because you're growing up and the world teaches you to stop asking questions or encourages you to ask less questions, or it's because technology is now making it easier for you to find those answers. You need to hack that, and you need to always know that your curiosity is your superpower. This is what makes us humans. This is what makes us have this amazing creative ability. So if you want to continue to develop and grow and enjoy in this field, continue to be curious, ask questions, think about, unlock that inner child in yourself, because all of us were extremely curious as kids. Somewhere along the road, we started losing that superpower.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely a superpower. Well, look, thanks, Pavi, and thanks, SMR, and thanks to our sponsors, mtab.ai. As always, it's been a pleasure talking to you. That ends another edition of the Insight 250 Spotlight series. Please don't forget to sign up, to like and share. And until next time, keep innovating. Thank you.